Hey everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see. Good to see you. Yeah, thanks for coming. Lots of people in the chat. Good to see. Who's there? Some regulars, of course. Hi, hi, hi. I hope everybody had a happy Diwali yesterday. If that is a holiday that you practice, happy Diwali, happy belated Diwali to you. I had a couple Diwali sweets yesterday, delicious. Who's there? Alexander from the Philippines is there. Probably late. It's late in the Philippines. And of course, French Leo and Rosa, Navjot, Steve Lynn. All right. Diari and Trey are here. Cool. The regulars. Shivangi. Shivangi or Shivangi? Or Shivangi? Fix my pronunciation. So happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. Good to see you. Let me just arrange my cups here. Got 2 drinks on the go. It is Friday morning, right? You need more volume? There you go. How's that? Yeah. So that's my volume maxed out. Hopefully that's okay. TGIF indeed. Yeah. So Shivangi. All right. Friday morning, I'm coming to you live in Vancouver at the Canadian College of English Language downtown. I'm in the studio. It's 9 o'clock on Friday morning. I'm still a little bit sleepy, but we're going to get through it together. Yeah? Friday afternoon for some of you. Saturday morning maybe for some. All right, cool. Yeah, so anybody who's new, if you're new, if this is your first time, tell us, let us know. Yeah, everybody's welcome. I know that we've got some regulars in the crowd, of course, but if you don't know me, if this is your first time, I am Shaun. Hi. I'm going to be your teacher for the next hour or so. All right, so like I said last week, we're going to be looking at some relatively advanced things in class today and over the next few weeks at least. Low advanced, not too high for you guys. Yeah, but it doesn't matter what your level is. If you're much higher level than this, if you're lower, it's okay. Everybody's welcome, and everyone will learn a thing or two. I hope, myself included. Yeah. Hey, Julian's here. Cool. Arzang from Turkey. Carolina from Peru is your first time coming to us from Lima. Well, welcome, Carolina. All right. Yeah, so as I said, welcome to the class. Let's get started. If it's your first time, if you're new, if you have questions during the class about anything that I'm saying or comments, anything at all, complaints, just put your questions in the chat and I will try to get to them as often as I can, as quickly and as best I can. Julian's asking how I'm doing. I'm pretty good. I'm tired. Life's a bit of a grind sometimes. Life beats you down. But I've got my water. I've got my coffee. I've got you guys. So what else do I need, really, right? I'll be good. I'll be fine. All right, when are we going to start? People are asking. Wow, they're getting excited. All right, so yeah, let's jump into it here. Where did I go? All right, so people are asking, what is today's topic? They want to get down to business. They don't want to chit chat. They want to know what we're talking about today. Right? Yeah, I think Mark is back next week, guys. I'm not exactly sure on the date. I think it's next week. All right, what's today's topic, sir? They're asking. Yes, let's get down to business. They don't have any time to waste. Today's topic, if you must know, is popcorn. All right. Popcorn, delicious popcorn. All right, so what could be more tragic in life? What could be worse, right, than reaching for a handful of delicious-looking popcorn? Alexander hates popcorn. What could be worse than reaching for a delicious handful of popcorn and realizing that this popcorn has absolutely no salt or butter on it? Just plain popcorn, right? Tasteless, bland, foamy popcorn, right? Now, salty, buttery, delicious movie theater popcorn, I enjoy. I'm a fan of that. Okay? David's saying nothing is worse. I know. Nothing is worse, right, than that. Yeah. Hot buttered popcorn, I enjoy. This bland, plain, styrofoam, tasteless popcorn, you can keep. Okay? You can have it for yourself. JB's there. Hey. Trey Brown thinks this is about spicing up sentences. Yeah, you know my style for sure. Now, in no way am I saying, my dear viewers, students, my esteemed learners of English language, I'm not saying that your use of English is boring, plain, tasteless popcorn. No. But I am saying that, and I've said this before in previous classes, at the higher level, you want to go beyond the functional language. Sure, you can eat this snack, you can eat it, and it will maybe fill your tummy up. But sometimes, you want the butter, you want the salt, you want the flavor in there. And yes, this is what we're talking about. Now I understand. With a language, first comes the grammar and the comfort level with the language. Then comes a little bit of experimentation and trying to go beyond your comfort level. Yeah? And this is what we're going to be doing today. Some of what we're doing today you may have seen before. Okay? Hopefully some of it will be new, and maybe some of it might even blow your mind. Now, forget about popcorn. I'm talking about cheese. Now, you don't always want just the stinkiest, boldest flavors at all times. Sometimes you want a milder taste. Now, with language, you want to mix things up, right? You can't be screaming at people all the time. But Biloxi, you're asking Volkswagen is okay. I'm not sure why you're asking that, but what we're talking about today is, as Trey Brown said, adding a little bit of flavor to your language. Okay, we're talking about emphasis today. We're talking about making bold statements, making your use of the language a little bit more interesting. All right, Amanda from Spain. Hi, how are you? So yes, what we're talking about today is emphasis and word order. How playing with the word order in a sentence can create emphatic sentences, how it can create emphasis in a sentence, can add flavor to your use of the language. Okay? Now, what we're talking about today can be used in many different ways. It can be used in writing, in spoken language as well. In some cases, some of what we're going to look at today is conversational. Some of it is maybe a little bit more academic and written language. Some of this you will not necessarily use yourself, but you will see it. Okay? So we're talking about emphasis and word order. Okay? Yes, we're not actually talking about popcorn today. It's the metaphorical popcorn, yeah, the figurative popcorn. All right. So when we're talking about word order and how it can add emphasis to your sentences, to your use of the language, to make strong statements or to make interesting statements, right? One of the things we have talked about in this class before is something called inversion, which is when you flip the subject and the helping verb in a sentence, like you would in a question. And we'll see an example of that in a minute. But another term that maybe you've seen before and some teachers might use is something called fronting. Fronting, which similar to inversion, okay? Fronting means to take a section, a word, or a phrase that's usually later in the sentence and putting it at the beginning. Okay? Amal is saying, what happened? I don't know, you're going to have to be more specific than that. Be very specific, yeah? I'm not sure what happened. So, fronting, taking a word or phrase that's normally later in a sentence and putting it at the beginning of a sentence creates a little bit more emphasis, a little bit more spice, flavor. All right? All right, well, if you can't hear me, then yeah, that's a problem on your end. Obviously, you can't hear me telling you that, so maybe somebody in the chat can tell Amal that that's a problem on her end, not here. Okay? Unless you guys can hear me, right? Please tell me you can hear me. Yeah? Okay. So this is what we're looking at today, inversion and fronting. But we're going to be talking about things that maybe we haven't gone over in previous classes. Okay? So what we're going to start with is prepositional phrases and participles or participles. All right, JB's trying to get ahead of me here. Okay. So this is something we have spoken about in previous classes. We've talked about prepositional phrases. Okay, now a little real quick review of what I'm talking about here. A prepositional phrase is a group of words that begins with a preposition, like on or in, right? And then is followed by a noun. So it's a group of words functioning as one piece of the sentence, starting with a preposition, okay, followed by a noun. Now, an example of that is up the street, okay, a prepositional phrase. Up the street, beyond the mountains, in the doorway, and between us, okay? Now, Good Luck is asking about, yeah, cleft sentences. That's something we've talked about before. Exactly. And Steve Lynn, you're on the right track there too. Good, 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 good. So as is, oh, there's another one, across the field. Okay, good. So there's your preposition at the beginning of the phrase, and then you've got a noun. In some cases, you might have adjectives and other parts of speech in there, but you need that preposition and a noun to make it a prepositional phrase. Okay? David is asking, is this a collocation? Collocation is kind of a broad term. I wouldn't necessarily say that these are collocations, no, because they're pretty weak, right? The preposition in can go with so many different nouns, it doesn't really count as a collocation. Yeah, right, Diari, good. Good, good, good. Through the window, French Leo's saying. All right. So these prepositional phrases, okay, sometimes, as I said before, we front with prepositional phrases. We put a prepositional phrase at the beginning of a sentence, sometimes to add emphasis. But what we also do is we invert that word order to add more flavor to our writing as well, or to our use of the language. Okay? So check out this sentence here. Getting ready for Halloween, I guess. At the end of the hall stood a dark, ghostly figure. Okay? At the end of the hall stood a dark, ghostly figure as you can see, I'm terrified. Okay? Now, what you've got at the beginning of the sentence, you've got two prepositional phrases at the end of the hall together. But the thing you might notice is the word order here. Okay? And now in this case, it's not even the helping verb, it's the main verb. What I've done is I have inverted the order of the main verb here, stood, and then the subject here, right? Now this type of sentence we don't always use in conversation, right? When you're talking to your friends about what you did last night, you wouldn't say something like, on the couch I sat, right? It's a little bit strange. The ghost looks friendly, you guys say. Okay. But this is something you will see in a lot of written language, right? Especially stories, fiction, articles, this type of stuff. You will see it. Now, RMF is saying, are these sentences okay for IELTS? If you use this kind of stuff properly, yes, sure, yeah. I mean, I think in this case, it's important basically just to understand that we native English users, speakers, we do create sentence structures like this. So you have to be aware that they're out there, right? In case you encounter one, like a ghost, you have to be ready for it. Okay. Alexander, you were at the nightclub before you came to class? Just what the teacher wants to hear. Okay? All right. So, this is how you would normally say this sentence, right? A dark, ghostly figure stood at the end of the hall, right? You just flip it around. Up the hall was a ghostly figure, I would say, Julian, not so much ghost figure. David is saying, isn't that how Yoda talks? And right you are. Okay? Right you are, David, that is how Yoda speaks, that is. I'm actually going to be watching The Empire Strikes Back for the first time with my sons tonight. So I was inspired by Yoda. Okay? So, right you are, that's an example of this kind of fronting and inversion that we use in everyday speech. So let me show you another example. Look at this beautiful fall scene. Here you've got down the path, in the shade of trees, sat an empty bench. I don't know if that's sad or not. Okay, Samir is saying, what's today's topic? Hopefully you're just joining us, Samir. We're talking about emphasis. Now, you got down the path, prepositional phrase, in the shade of the trees. Lots of prepositional phrases. And then again, you've got the main verb and your subject, the subject at the end of the sentence, right? At the end of the sentence. And that is, again, what we call inversion. And again, this is very... Yeah, you hope I'm taller than Yoda? I guess, I mean, you never know. People, maybe I seem tall on... Well, I must seem pretty small on the screen, right? That's actual size, right? I fit right in your pocket. All right, so again, this is just one of the many ways we add emphasis and flavor to our writing or to our use of the language. Now again, this type of sentence more so used in written language, I would say, rather than spoken. Okay. Eunice is saying sat an empty bench, right? So an empty bench sat, I would say, in the shade of the trees down the path. Right? Okay. Now one more example. This might be something that someone would actually say rather than write. You say, also on today's agenda is the vote for a new team leader, right? So again, you've got the verb and the vote is the subject. Now, Jerry, that's good. At the back of the house, a beautiful water feature existed. You could also flip it and say, at the back of the house, existed or was a beautiful water feature. All right. Now, Hussam is saying for bench, is that the object? No, that is not the object. It is the subject. And Arzu is asking why I'm not responding. Well, I can't respond to everything. Arzu, if I miss your questions, please put them back in the chat, and I'll try to answer them. Okay, so again, just to be clear, this here, the vote, is the subject of this sentence. It is not the object. Even though it's coming after the main verb, we have just flipped the order, right? So Julian is saying, today's agenda is having a vote. Well, I would say the vote for a new team leader is also on today's agenda, right? Again, the vote for a new team leader is on today's agenda. It's just inversion. Somebody, Alexander, your nose is bleeding? Well, man, just get some Kleenex, get some tissue, because this is just the beginning. All right? This is just the beginning. Okay? So, another kind of structure or a part of speech that we use, in addition to the prepositional phrase, we use participles, right? And Ahmed is saying, why do we do it? Again, we do it to add a little bit of style. It's a style choice, Ahmed, right? Remember that when you're using a language, you want to keep people interested in what you're saying, right? You want to have style, you want to have range. So you want to kind of show what you can do. Lots of times if you are from a culture where you tell a lot of stories, okay? You're always talking to your friend about this thing that happened, this other thing that happened. Using inversion can make these stories better, more interesting, okay? French Leo. Genre, that's for you. Okay, so participles. I'm talking about something like this: entering a house, coming this way, hidden in the trees, taken from the house. Okay? So, again, if you're not sure what a participle is, you can watch the class that we've done on these. We've got a couple classes just on participles, right? Now we're talking about basically verbs with ing, the present participle, entering, coming, taking, running, okay? Or the past participle, which you use for your perfect tenses, right? Your third form of the verb is your past participle, hidden, taken, ed endings for regular verbs, okay? Now these participle phrases or participle clauses can also be used with fronting and inversion, just like a prepositional phrase, okay? So again, this terrifying image, right? Terrifying. Coming down the hall towards me was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen, okay? Now again, this is making my story more interesting, more intense, right? Now you're starting the sentence with that participle clause, coming down the hall towards me, right? And there's your verb, right? And that's your main verb. So where's the subject? The subject is here. The most terrifying thing that I had ever seen. That's an extra clause. Right, JB, thanks for answering that question. Good, right. Thing is the subject, exactly. And is this a complex sentence? This is definitely a complex sentence. Good question, David, because you've got two clauses. You could argue three if you say coming down the hall towards me is a reduced clause, perhaps. But it's definitely a complex sentence. Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if I wrote this the regular way. Right. So The most terrifying thing I had ever seen came down the hall towards me, or it was coming down the hall towards me. Either one, right? Past tense or present, or continuous rather. Garima is asking, do you have to use what, a comma or quotations? Because I don't think you don't need a comma, because you're not, if you're talking about using a comma here, that's a good question, guys. Putting a comma here, let me go to laser pointer mode. Putting a comma here, is if that's your question, no, I wouldn't put a comma here, because you don't want to separate this here unless you had the subject afterwards. If you said something like, coming down the hall towards me, comma, the ghost looked into my eyes, right? That's kind of your regular use of these participle clauses. But this, with this inverted order, yeah, you don't put commas like you normally do. Okay? So this was Sad's brother. Okay. All right, I think I've got one more example for you here. Or actually, no, I've got a couple more. So sitting, oh, this is nice. This is not terrifying. Sitting on a remote hillside was a charming winter lodge. Right? Lodge meaning kind of like a mountain home, like a house up in the trees, up in the mountains, like a ski lodge. Right? Sitting on a remote hillside was a charming winter lodge. Now, whoops. Oh, I guess I don't break that one down. But again, you're starting with that ing, sitting. And then you've got your main verb here, was, and lodge being the subject. Okay. Arzu, if your question is clauses contain conjunctions, that's a much bigger question to answer. My answer is not always. Nope. Okay. So let me show you one more. Okay, David's saying, can we replace the phrase with a pronoun? Like it? Yeah, you could do that. Good. JB, eating in the room was my sister. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Or sitting, yeah, eating in the room, standing in the room was my sister. And again, remember that the point of these sentences is to kind of make strong statements or emphatic sentences, interesting, flowery, beautiful sentences. So if you're just talking to your friend about something that's not interesting, right, and you just said, sitting on the table was my cat, it would be out of place if you're just talking normally. But if it's a story, right, I walk home and sitting right on the kitchen table was the cat that I had been looking for all day, right? Ahmed is saying today's topic is really hard. Yeah, it is. It is a high-level topic. Yeah, for advanced class for sure. You like this picture? Now we can also use the past participle, guys, and say this: nestled in a sling was a beautiful newborn baby boy. That's nice. So RMF, I mean, it kind of, yeah, I guess it is the inversion of, I mean, it's continuous. The present participle is the continuous structure, yeah. Now this is not, this is more the passive, right? A beautiful newborn baby boy was nestled in a sling, right? So now this is the passive voice. Rosa, you like my sentence? Thank you. Okay. So nestled in a sling. This lovely thing here that goes over the mommy or daddy's shoulder is a sling. Nestled means to be all cozy, right, in there. Huddled, huddled in the corner was an old man. Mahendra, that's good. Good, 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 good. Okay, so nestled in the sling was, there's your main verb, right? There's your verb, and then boy is the subject. Oh, and I thought I had written it normally, but I didn't. So a baby boy was nestled in a sling, passive. Now RMF is asking a good question, saying, can we invert all sentences? And no, we can't invert all sentences. No. But we can, as I said, with these prepositional phrases, with these participles, and there are other things that you can use inversion for. Actually, we have an entire other lesson from probably in the spring called inversion, which talks about different ways to do it as well. And you should check it out. But you can't just go around inverting everything. And to answer that question, you don't want to, right? The purpose of this type of sentence is to add style, right? So if you go around inverting everything, then, as I think David mentioned, you just sound like Yoda from Star Wars, and you start to confuse people. Okay? Arzu, I can't raise my voice. You got to turn up your volume, man. Right? That's why you got your volume on there. Okay. This is as loud as I can. I don't want to start shouting at you guys yet. Okay. Oh, JB is calling me on whether or not this is actually a boy. Oh, I just made up the sentence. It could be a girl. Okay. All right. Now, we are going to look at different ways that we can invert word order in a moment. Now, what I would like you guys to do first, just to see if we're on the right track, I'm going to put 4 phrases or participles at the beginning of a sentence. I would like you to finish these sentences for me. Okay? Finish the sentences with this inverted subject-verb order. Okay? Now, I would say the easiest way to do it is just to use the verb to be, right? Was or is, but you can try to go for it if you're ambitious. Now RMF is asking about adverbs. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Good one. Okay, I think prepositional phrases are more common. So I'm going to put the music on. I'm going to disappear from the screen for a couple minutes. Put A, B, C, D. I want you to finish these sentences, write them in the chat, and then we're going to look at them together. Okay, guys? All right, get to work, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, go for it. All right, guys, good stuff. Lots and lots of good sentences coming in. Now let me come back over here. Whoops. Now let me see. Let me copy that. Copy that. Come over here and put it in my doc here. I'll make that big. All right, so everybody can see. So across the street. Now, I noticed some of you were saying things like across the street is dangerous or something like that. Now, that's a good grammatically correct sentence, but it's not really that inverted order that we're looking at to add emphasis, right? Oh, Trey Brown. Trey Brown. Okay, across the street was sad. Sad. I don't know why I'm laughing. Across the street was an abandoned kitten. Terrible. Good sentence. Terrible situation for that kitten, right? Now again, French Leo, it's fine. I mean, saying across the street at the beginning and then I saw, that is still kind of fronting. You are putting that prepositional phrase at the beginning of the sentence, and it is still slightly emphatic. But let's try to invert that word order too. I mean, I think Swade says, yeah, across the street was a new parking lot. I think Amanda said across the street is a bakery. Yeah, that's nice. Across the street from my house is a brand new bakery. Okay. Steve Lynn said something too. What did you say? Across the street stands a dog staring at me. Well, that would be terrifying. Is that the dog was standing? Wow. That would be the most terrifying thing I've ever seen, maybe. Yeah? Okay. So, standing in the middle of the street for B was the U.S. president. Okay. Okay, I'm not touching that. All right, what else do we have here? Standing, where's B? You guys like to talk about cats. There's a kitten, there's an abandoned kitten. Now Julian says standing in the middle of the street was an old cat. Again, standing, just standing in the middle of the street. Yeah, this cat. This is a crazy world we live in now. Mahmoud is saying standing in the middle of the street is my girlfriend. Maybe say was my girlfriend. Okay, sure. I hope she gets out of the street soon. Right, now Carolina. Now this is a good one. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Look at this. This is a really good example here coming in from Carolina, guys. So standing in the middle of the street, there was a man who looked like a ghost. Okay, standing in the middle of the street, there was a man who looked like a ghost. Now look what happens. I'm going to do a little magic trick. I'm going to ghost one of these words here. I'm going to make there a ghost and get rid of it and see what happens. Standing in the middle of the street was a man who looked like a ghost. Now that's a beauty right there. Okay. Good stuff, Carolina. Good. All right. Now what about the next one? Into the room. Now this one is a little bit trickier because of into. The preposition into suggests movement, right? So you need a verb that goes with into. So it couldn't be was. You can't say into the room was a man, right? You need some kind of verb that suggests movement. Say, so Pilar, for you, the same thing. Into my room I found my valet. You can't find something into the room. In, yes. Into the room, David says, into the room I tiptoed. So how about this? Into the room tiptoed David at 2 in the morning. Right? So there's my inversion. Right? And now again, I'm telling you this story. You wouldn't believe it. I'm home alone by myself, and into the room walks David at 2 o'clock in the morning. Right? So you need some kind of verb for movement, right? Into the room. Into the room walked. Right? That one's for all you guys talking about sheriffs all the time. Into the room walked the sheriff. David's saying sorry. As long as you're sorry, David, that's what counts. Into the room entered a thief. Yeah, that's great. Into the room ran the rat. Good, guys. Good. All right. Parked in the driveway. Parked in the driveway. Give me one more. Swade says, yeah, keep it simple. Parked in the driveway was a big truck. Right? Parked in the driveway was a brand new Porsche. Right? I get home and what do I see? Parked in the driveway was a brand new Porsche. Not for me. Parked in the driveway is my grandpa's old car. Good. RMF, I didn't see your sentence. Into the room will, no, you can't say that. No, because into, RMF, is about movement, right? Walk into, go into, come into, right? You got to just have to be careful with that prepositional phrase there. Now, one other thing, I'm keeping my eye on the time here, and this is good. This lesson might actually be 2 lessons because there's so much to talk about here today, guys. But this is good stuff. Parked in the driveway was a UFO. Right. What are people asking what a Porsche is? Yeah, Porsche is a type of car, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let me skip a page here because people were asking about adverbs. Now, it is sometimes the case that we invert word order not just after prepositional phrases and participles, but sometimes, I didn't put it in my presentation, but we do sometimes do it with certain adverbs that express time or process. Now, as most of you guys know, usually at the beginning of a class, I use the language of the lesson in the introduction to the class, okay, to try to introduce it a little bit. And if you ever go back and watch the intro, you'll be able to hopefully pick up examples of me using the structures that we're talking about today. Now, one of the things I was talking about is expanding your range of language, using this inversion to add style and spice and flavor to your language, right? And what I said was something like, first comes an understanding of grammar and, let's say, functional language. Okay? Then comes style and what? Range. Okay? Now look at what I've done here. I've used these adverbs, right? First and then, showing time, showing process. I put them at the beginning of the sentence. Oftentimes first and then are used at the beginning of the sentence, so that's not fronting in itself. But you'll notice here that I have inverted the subject and the main verb, right? Right. So first, right, yeah. First you will practice, then comes the understanding of fronting. Okay, so an understanding of grammar and functional language comes first, right? Then style and range will follow or comes, right? Such a big sentence? It's not that big, right? But this is fronting, this is inversion for style, okay? We do it with first, second, next, then, these kinds of words. Or as the saying goes, right? First comes love, then comes marriage, and along comes Steve Lynn with a baby carriage, right? That's what they say, isn't it? Isn't that what they say? First comes love, then comes marriage? No? I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not. Okay, but that's what they say. All right, so let's. Now you're saying about future, JB. Yeah, some of you guys are asking about the future. Parked in the driveway tomorrow will be a drunk man. Parked in the driveway tomorrow will be a drunk man. Future sounds a little bit strange to me, yeah. I don't know if I would use the future tenses like that. Let me think about that one and I'll get back to you. Good question. You may have stumped me on that. Yeah? What time is it? Yes. Google it. Google what time it is. Okay. So let's move on to the next thing here, guys. We are definitely not going to finish this lesson today, but that's okay. There's so much to talk about with this kind of stuff. This next thing, right? But I don't know if this is going to blow your minds. Maybe it is, or maybe you've heard this kind of stuff before. So we also use this kind of fronting or inversion with comparatives. Okay. Check out this sentence. The chance to learn a new language was a great part of the trip. But even better was the food. Okay? Even better was the food. Hey, you guys are good at following instructions. You're giving me the time. I was actually referring to somebody else was asking what time it... Sorry. Somebody in the chat was asking me what time it was. But thank you. Thank you guys for letting me know. All right? You guys are definitely paying attention to me. That's good to know. Okay. So the chance to learn a new language was a great part of the trip, but even better was the food. Hopefully you can identify what culture this is. This is Korean food here. Delicious Korean barbecue. It looks like there's a banana on the grill there, which I did not experience in my time in Korea. But the side dishes, all of the stuff, delicious. So the inversion, the emphasis is kind of in that second part of the sentence, right? Even better. There's your comparative, right? Even better was the food. Now, look, main verb, food, subject, verb, subject. The verb is coming before the subject, bulgogi. Right. Steve Lynn, you like that? Even better was the food. Now, and you can use any kind of comparative. Better, faster, stronger, more interesting. Any kind of comparative you can use in this inverted structure. Okay? I don't know if I've got the regular. Yeah, right. So normally you would say, the chance to learn a new language was a great part of the trip, but the food was even better. But even better was the food. This type of inversion with the comparatives, you can definitely use in speech. This is not formal, right? It's emphatic. You're talking to your friends about something interesting, right? Steve Lynn, look at that. Rosa is smart and beautiful. Even better is her personality. There you go. Right? It doesn't get better than that, right? So, where am I going here? Other comparatives that you can use, as I said, even more interesting. So, even with any kind of comparative, whether it's more, even more beautiful, or even faster, even stronger, right? Worst of all, best of all, Okay, so technically that's a superlative, not a comparative if you want to get picky, right? But you can use these structures as well. Worst of all was, best of all is, just as, and then your participle, right, or your adjective, right? Just as surprising, just as interesting, right? Just as big. Okay. Now, no French leader, you can't say more of all, because more is just usually two, right? You're comparing two things. Whoop. So any of these, even, worst, best of all, and just as, or I mean, instead of just, you could say equally, right? Equally as delicious is, right? So Arzu, I can't, comparatives, you should look up the lesson on that one. Okay, there's a lot to talk about with comparatives. Okay, so I love Shaun's class. Best of all is the mistake of the week, right? Even more interesting is Shaun's teaching style. Just as amazing is Shaun's haircut. Okay, Rosa's out of here. See you, Rosa. Now look at these poor people. Now the food, for me, the food doesn't look that bad. Actually, the food looks, his steak looks delicious, but they don't look that into it. Okay, so here's an example of this inversion. Worst of all was the garden salad. All right, worst of all was the salad. You've got that inverted order of verb and subject. Okay, worst of all. So we went to the restaurant. It's terrible. Although this actually looks like an amazing restaurant, but these guys are very picky. Terrible restaurant, right? The table wasn't close enough to the water. The service was slow. The vinegar was not delicious enough, right? But worst of all was the garden salad. Right? But again, to me, it looks like the garden, it looks fine. Well, yeah, worst of all was the cockroach in the salad, right? I'm Miles out of here. See you later. Thanks for coming. Okay. Do I have another example for you? No, I don't. But that's basically it right there, guys. So how about this? Let's try. Let's try this. Do I have something here? Yeah, I do. Here, let me make this a little bit, that's too big. Let me make this smaller so it fits on the screen. All right, let me go down to 24. Now I want you to try to use what I'm talking about here, this inversion, to finish these sentences, just like we did before, but now we're using comparatives. So I said, I had a wonderful trip. Particularly memorable, right? And then this. Now, in this case, I'm realizing it's not really a comparative, but it kind of fits into the same category. Okay. In fact, also worth a visit is not really a comparative either, but using these adjective forms, it fits into the same category. Okay. So just as interesting, also worth a visit, particularly surprising or particularly memorable, okay? And then you follow basically the model that I put up there before with your main verb and then your subject, okay? So try to finish the sentence now with a verb. So I'll do the first one, okay? I had a wonderful trip. Particularly memorable was an afternoon on the riverbank. Okay? I had a wonderful trip, right? Particularly memorable was an afternoon on the riverbank. Now, actually, this fits kind of more with the adverbs that we were talking about before. Okay? So, give me some examples. Yeah, right. David's the good. Particularly memorable was the visit to the island. Amazing. Polexio, particularly memorable was the safari in the Jeep. In the Jeep. Good. And Arzu, just so you know, because you're asking me about responding to your questions, if your questions are not about the class, then I can't answer everybody's questions, okay? Perhaps people in the chat can help you, but if it's not specifically about this, sorry. Yeah, I can't answer every question. No, good question, Pilar. Pilar is asking, do I always have to use the past? No, I'm using the past here because the trip is in the past. Okay? That's why I'm using the past tense here. But my town has lots of things to see, also worth a visit. You could definitely use the present there. Right? Now again, you need a verb here, guys. You need to put your verb here. Yes, I mean, give me some examples in here. Suede, good one. Good one. Now I'm not gonna, usually I disappear. I'm not gonna bother doing that because we're kind of short on time. But Suede, that's a good one. Also worth a visit is, I would say, is the Sahara Desert to the south. Good. Good. Trey Brown, my hometown has a lot of things to see. Also worth a visit is San Antonio. San Antone. All right. David saying, also worth a visit is the Tower of Toronto, the CN Tower. CN Tower. Garima, also worth a visit is the Taj Mahal. Perfect, guys. These are great. Perfect. What about this last one? C. The city's architecture was nice, but just as interesting. Just as interesting. What else? Somebody said, who said something about the locals? Where did that example go? Suede, good, but I think that second as, you mean are, right? Or is the seashore. Stephen, good. David, good. Yeah, you say, but just as interesting. The city's architecture was nice, but just as interesting is or was or are. Just as interesting, let's say, were the people. I think somebody said the locals. I don't know where that went, but the locals, meaning the people. Good. Now again, you're just using that inverted order here with the comparative, just as interesting. Good. Good stuff, guys. Now, okay, so I actually only got halfway through the lesson that I was intended to do today, and I don't want to rush through it because this is good stuff, and it seems like you guys are doing well with it. Yeah, you guys are asking, locals means indigenous people? Not necessarily. Locals just means the people who live in a city, right, or a town. The local people means the not the tourists or short-term visitors. Julian, your answer wasn't said. I don't know if I would use the word interesting to describe a hurricane, Julian. Maybe. But I'm not sure where you're. One Direction? You're talking about the band One Direction? Okay. Irina's saying, can I say worthy? Oh, okay. If you put worthy here, I would say worthy of. Also worthy of a visit. I think it's more common to just say worth, right? Worth a visit. Jafar is saying, should we use locals or local? Well, this is people, plural, more than one. So I would say S for locals. Okay? Good questions. Good questions, guys. All right, so we are going to, I'm going to skip over all this other stuff. I don't want you guys to see that. We'll wait until next time. All right. We're going to continue with emphasis and word order next week, part 2. But for today, it's time for the mistake of the week, right? What you guys are waiting for. All right. First comes the lesson, then comes the mistake of the week. Right? At the end of the class is the mistake of the week. Mistake of the fortnight. Trey Brown. Good one. All right, so Julian says he's already won, guys. So actually, we'll see you. Okay, we'll see you next time. No, this is how it works for anybody. Okay, one more thing. My humble opinion, spicing up a language for me sometimes give up word order. JR0 YouTube. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Try to clarify what your comment is so I can respond to it. Okay? Now anybody who's new to the class, guys, this is how it works. I'm going to put a sentence up on the screen, and in the sentence hides a mistake, right? And you have to find that common mistake made by English language learners, and maybe in some cases native speakers. Okay, so I'm going to put the sentence up here. Rather, I'm going to disappear from the screen, and I want you guys to find the answer and put it in the chat. Whoever gets it first is the world champion. Actually, the champion of the universe, to be technical, right? And how much time? You'll probably have about 3 or 5 seconds to find the mistake before somebody finds it first. If you're new to the class, you're dealing with some highly skilled professionals who have done this many times, week in and week out. So they're quick. They're quick on the draw. They're sharpshooters. You don't mess around with them. Okay. So I'm going to put the sentence up here, and I'm going to disappear for about 5 seconds or so. Find me the mistake. There's your sentence. See you later. All right, guys, good stuff. Lots of stuff coming in on the chat. Lots of different answers. This doesn't usually happen, that we've got such a broad range of answers. Oftentimes you guys jump on my mistake right away. Somebody did find it pretty quickly, but there were a couple other things that kind of tricked you. Now, I should say that part of this sentence structure is something that we were going to talk about but didn't talk about. So some of it might be unfamiliar to you. Some of you guys were talking about the what at the beginning, saying what I noticed first was. There's no mistake there. So what I noticed first was the company completely lacks of organization. I had no idea who was responsible for what. So who was responsible for what? Some people thought that that was a mistake, but that's fine too, right? Because I'm not going to say who was responsible for that, because I'm not even talking about a specific thing. If it was specific, like who's responsible for that? But what I'm saying here is I had no idea who was responsible for what, meaning of anything, any different job, who was responsible for it. Okay, now the mistake, Polluxio found it right away. The answer is of. Right? Now Jerry is saying, did you find it too? Shivangi got it, yeah. And Steve Lynn, yeah. David is saying, I won. That's hard to say. I mean, sometimes, guys, I know that you're in your chat, it looks like you won. I'm not sure. According to my records, my information, sorry, I just messed up the mic. Polluxio got it first in my chat. Okay, but you guys are all you're all champions in my book. Now, the problem here is that lacks, right? Lacks is a verb. So when you're using lacks as a verb, like I lack money, right? You don't want to use that preposition of. You don't say I lack of money, right? Get that out of there. And just say the company completely lacks organization. I lack money, I lack patience, I lack time. Lots of different things. But you don't use of unless it's a noun. If you're using lack as a noun, then you follow it with of, right? My lack of money, my lack of time, my lack of patience. Okay? Now JB saying lack in. No, I'd say lack of. French Leo's out of here. See ya. Garima, you were wrong. That's okay. Everybody's wrong sometimes, even me. Okay? Now if I take this, look how I change it. If I say this, what I noticed first was the company's complete lack of organization. Right? A lack of exercise? Yeah, I've got that too. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a lack of coffee though. I do not lack caffeine. Now, modern Arab woman is saying, I lack my lover. Is that correct? I would say, I lack a lover, because it wouldn't be, you can't say my lover, because you don't, if you lack it, you don't have it, right? So that's a good question. I wouldn't say, I lack my money. I would say, I lack money, okay? Because I don't have it, so it's not mine, if that makes sense, okay? So Eunice is saying spicing up sentences is hard while speaking. Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, speaking is one of the skills that kind of comes last, right? Or is the hardest thing to have the confidence to build up. Sometimes it's a lack of confidence in speaking ability that keeps students from progressing or from pushing themselves to that next step. But it's just about time and practice. I know that some of this stuff seems crazy, or difficult, but with a little bit of time, it becomes clear. Clear, it shall become, in the words of Yoda. Right? So as I said, I'm gonna be watching Yoda with my boys tonight. They're watching Empire Strikes Back for the first time. So excited are they. That's not really how we use inversion, by the way. That's more Yoda. So before I go, Garima is saying that she has a question about last class. So the example, if I had paid more attention in class, I would have done better on the final exams. Is it possible to use in instead of on? If not, why? So if you're talking about using in for exam, I would have done better in the exam. I would say no. You want to use the preposition on with a test, right? What was your score on the exam, or how did you do on the test? Why is a good question. And in some cases, Garima saying the best answer I can provide you is just because. Okay? Unfortunately, prepositions don't always make sense. They don't always follow logic or have reasons. It's just certain prepositions go with certain nouns, collocations, what we call dependent prepositions, and that's just the answer. Sorry, I couldn't give you a more magical response. JB is saying, is there another lesson with that Egyptian guy? You mean Karim? I don't know if it's today. I'm not sure, to be honest. If it is, it'll be on the page. All right. So okay, guys. Let me jump out of here. Let me go back to this kind of purpley mauve kind of color. That I don't know if this is my color necessarily, but that's okay. I should put that in my contract. Greens and blues only. All right, guys. So, unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye, but not farewell, or farewell but not goodbye. Time for me to get back to other stuff here at the school. My day is just getting started. If your day is coming to an end, good night, sweet dreams, and see you next time. Keep watching the other classes. You got Kent there. You've got Karim. I believe Mark is back next week. I think twice a week, maybe even. And I will be here. Same time next week, Friday. Okay, Friday morning, 9 o'clock Vancouver time. And in the meantime, keep practicing your English. Keep making mistakes. Keep trying to spice it up. Right? Go beyond. Push yourself beyond the functional language, even if that means making just some weird sentences, just some strange sentences that nobody understands. Learning from it, fixing it, and improving. Okay?